Hello and welcome back to the channel. We'll be doing every person on US currency and possibly why they're on there. And yeah, I don't actually know much about US. I know quite a bit about US currency. I have quite a bit. But you know, it's never something that I've ever really looked into before. So this will be information to a few of you and recapping for a few of you. Anyway, let's go on the video.
Andrew Jackson, Harriet Tubman is coming for you. That's right. It's looking like she will be replacing him on the American $20 bill, y'all. Okay, it probably won't happen until at least 2030, but it's happening, dadgummit. I'm Mr. Beat, and yes, in this video, we're going to look at money. Real money. This is obviously fake money.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to bring in the real Federal Reserve notes, so I photocopied these at my school. Please do not tell the authorities. But yeah, real American currency, as it turns out, is not printed on paper. It's made out of...
So yeah, most money isn't actually printed on paper anymore. It's either, so in the US case it's a cotton thing. In the UK it is now a plastic that is kind of a plastic paper mix in here in the UK, so it completely depends on where you are.
Fabric composed of 75% cotton and 25% linen. It's also really hard to counterfeit. You're freaking me out. You wore a mask called counterfeit. Almost.
Yeah, it's honestly extremely hard to counterfeit any money, especially US and British money.
Every single part of American currency is there to make it difficult to copy. The United States Department of Treasury spends billions each year producing it, and it is quite an elaborate process. Oh, don't get me wrong, many still try to...
They actually spend more money making the currency than the currency's actually worth.
Counterfeit American currency, and in fact, many are still successful. The Department of Treasury estimates that possibly $200 million in counterfeit bills are currently in
circulation, if not more.
That would mean that about one Federal Reserve note out of every 4,000 out there right now is counterfeit.
You would probably have one in your wallet right now, or purse, or whatever you use.
That dollar bill in your pocket, George, might be a counterfeit. You might want to get that checked out. Meh, almost every store would probably still accept it anyway. After all, it got there in the first place. But hold up, what about the people on this currency? Who are these people? And do they think they're a big deal? Why, yes, they are a big deal.
Most of them are presidents, but there's some people who aren't presidents on there.
Some of them were American presidents. However, others are just important people in American history. And some of them featured on different currencies over the years.
And some of them now aren't on there for several reasons. So these are just a few of the people who aren't on there anymore. And actually... different currencies which actually don't exist anymore.
May surprise you. The Secretary of the Treasury is in charge of selecting people, and there's no law saying that the people on the currency have to always be the same. In this video, we're going to look at every person on American currency and give a little bit of basic information about each one of them, although I'm sure you're already familiar with most of them. First of all, I've got another great sponsor, and he's been on the during this video. Now, I don't mean to brag, but let's start with the currency that I so happen to have a lot of. The penny. The penny worth...
Honestly, the penny is beautiful. It has Abraham Lincoln on it, and we all know who Abraham Lincoln is. For those of you who aren't familiar with Abraham Lincoln, which I'd be surprised there are a few of them. He was president of the United States during the Civil War, from 1862, I think, or a little bit earlier, to 1865. He freed the slaves with the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, and that's most likely why he's on it, because of the Emancipation Proclamation. I personally don't like him as much as other people do, because he was still a mild racist.
1 cent features the 16th president, Abraham Lincoln. Most historians today say that Lincoln is the greatest president in American history. He's been on the penny since 1909 to honor his 100th birthday. Lincoln was the first president featured on an American coin. The nickel, worth 5 cents, features the
We all know who that is.
Declaration of Independence writer, founding father dude, and third president, Thomas Jefferson. He's been on the nickel since 1938. The dime, worth 10 cents, features the 32nd president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Now, there's a reason for that. In the 30s, the US was trying to find a cure for polio and a polio vaccine. So, when he was president, he did what is sometimes now referred to as the dime trail, where you would send in a dime to the US Capitol building or the White House, and that would be part of your contribution to it. And there were so many of them that is now why Franklin Delano Roosevelt is on the dime.
He's been on the dime since 1946, the year after he died. And the dime is so appropriate for FDR since he founded the March of Dimes,
Yes.
a non-profit organization with the goal of improving the health of mothers and babies. The quarter, worth 25 cents, features an obscure founding father by the name of George Washington. Okay, I joke, of course. Washington is kind of a big deal, being the much beloved first president and also
I'm not going to say anything about him because everyone already knows about him.
hero of the American Revolution. He's been on the quarter since his 200th birthday in 1932. The half dollar, worth half a dollar, features the 35th president, John
I don't actually know why he's on there. I would like to find that out.
F. Kennedy. He's been on it since 1964, the year after he died. The half dollar is the largest coin currently produced, but there are
Actually, I think it's one of the largest ever currently produced in the world. One of the largest coins ever produced was actually a Dutch 2.5 guilder.
aren't many in circulation since most Americans don't use them much. And now it's time for the bills. No, not that type of bills. Not that type of bill. Not that type of bill either. This type of bill.
I don't actually know why Americans call them bills. Over here, we just call them notes.
I actually had a real one of these. The dollar, worth $1. Okay.
Again, George Washington on there, first president of the United States, kind of fits.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop saying how much they're worth now. Anyway, the dollar also features the much beloved first president and American Revolution hero, George Washington. He's been on it since 1869. The $1 bill is the second most common Federal Reserve note in circulation.
After the
You
$5 note.
probably have one somewhere, I bet. I hope so. Now, the
Even I have one on me.
$2 bill is much less used. It
I've only ever seen one once, actually.
also features the third president, Thomas Jefferson, and he's
Yeah, a lot of these do repeat, so I don't really like how they repeat them.
been on it since 1869 as well. Because Americans think they're rare, they often collect $2 bills. But they're surprisingly not as rare as you would think. The $5 bill also features 16th President Abraham Lincoln, and he's been on it since 1914. So far, it's been all presidents on currency, but this next fellow was never president.
But you talk, oh, and you thought you were going to talk.
Alexander Hamilton is on the $10 bill. Many of
Actually creating the economy. Without him, the economy wouldn't have really been a thing until, it wouldn't have been very well developed until much later.
the young folks know all about him through the Hamilton musical, of course, which is kind of weird.
And it got a few things wrong, but it's mostly correct.
But yeah, he was a founding father and the first Treasury Secretary, so I guess that's quite appropriate that he's on currency. He's been on it since 1929. Andrew Jackson used to be on the $10 bill, but as I mentioned earlier, now he's on the $20 bill.
Yes.
Jackson was the 7th president and is arguably the most controversial one on currency.
Yeah, I'd say he's the most controversial one on currency these days. I think there were a few which were more controversial, but it just completely depends on how far back you want to go.
That's currently in circulation. There's no denying his huge impact on American history, though. He's been on the 20 also since 1929. The $50 bill features the 18th president, Ulysses Grant, and he's been on it as long as Lincoln's been on the $5 bill since 1914.
It kind of makes sense that he's on there.
And now it's all about the Benjamins.
$100.
Yeah, I have no Benjamins. Benjamin Franklin has also been on the $100 bill.
Again, not a president, but actually created a lot of foundation for the country and even for modern day France.
Since 1914. Franklin was also never a president, but still a big freaking deal in American history, being a founding father, but additionally just a major American Enlightenment figure who...
Yeah. He was also a scientist who actually helped revolutionize a lot to do with electricity, actually. And he also did a lot of other things which people don't give him as much credit for and often are overlooked, and people mostly focus on his being in the birth of a nation, which I guess is very important. But again, without him, we might be stuck 20, 30 years in the past.
Accomplished and influenced so much in colonial America. Oh, and the $100 bill, surprisingly, is the most common Federal Reserve note in circulation currently. Now, the United States no longer issues bills in denominations larger than $100 due to technology, but also inflation. But they still are legal tender and can still be in circulation. The Treasury Department officially discontinued the $500 bill in 1969. If you happen to actually have a $500 bill and wanted to, I don't know, pay with groceries with it, you indeed could. Although that'd be silly since it'd actually be worth at least hundreds of dollars more since they are so rare. The latest version of the $500 bill features the 25th president, William McKinley, but he was only printed on it for a few years.
I don't like William McKinley.
Treasury Department also officially discontinued the $1,000 bill in 1969. The latest version of it features the 22nd and 24th president, Grover Cleveland. A grocery store could also accept it, but please don't spend it if you have it. Sell it, man. Only 165,372 of these bills with Cleveland on it are still in existence. If they are in decent shape, they are not worth 1,000. They are worth thousands. And
possibly up to 10, maybe 15,000 is what I've seen online myself.
Yes, there are actually 5,000, 10,000, and 100,000.
But they're not legal tender anymore.
Bills out there. The Treasury Department also officially discontinued the $5,000 bill in 1969. It features the 4th president and father of the Constitution, James Madison.
Of course, there had to be one with Madison on.
More than 400 of these notes are believed to still be out there. Today, one would easily sell for $30,000. Yeah, if you have one, please don't spend it on groceries. The Treasury Department also officially discontinued the $10,000 bill in 1969. It features...
honestly, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful.
The U.S. Senator, 25th Secretary Treasury, and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Salmon P. Chase. No one knows exactly how many $10,000 bills are out there, but at least one site estimates you could probably get $140,000 for one in decent condition. The $100,000 bill...
Woodrow Wilson, I think that is.
Was actually just a gold certificate that was never issued for regular public use. The Treasury Department just created them for official transactions between Federal Reserve banks. Only 42...
in my opinion, Woodrow Wilson is the worst president of all time.
2,000 bills ever were printed, and even today, collectors can't legally own one, but if they did, they'd instantly be a millionaire. Oh, and it features Wilson? Yeah, the 28th President Woodrow Wilson.
Racist, racist, racist.
Well, hold up. What about all the people who used to be on American currency but are no longer on it? Well,
actually, you may be wondering why I'm calling Wilson a racist. Now, in the 1920s, a movie was released. Well, not 1920s, 1910s. A movie was released called The Birth of a Nation. A very prolific film for featuring the KKK in a positive light. What did Woodrow Wilson do? Say it's the best movie of all time. Of course he did.
Are a lot of these people. In fact, there are too many to list in this video, so I'm just going to give you some highlights. Let's start with presidents. All of the dead presidents are on $1 coin.
I actually have the US, Harry S. Truman, and FDR ones.
Also, John Quincy Adams used to be on the $500 bill. James Garfield was on the $5 bill and $20 gold certificate. Benjamin Harrison was on the $5 bill for a bit. William McKinley was also on the $10 bill.
Some of them are actually quite surprising. George Washington's been on almost all of them.
Washington was on a bunch of different currencies. So was Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, Andrew Jackson, Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses Grant, and Grover Cleveland. Henry Clay may have never been president, but he was on the $50 bill at one point.
I'm trying to think it's very surprising.
Other senators once on currency include Daniel Webster on the $10 bill, Edward Everett on the $50 bill.
I don't know most of these.
John Sherman also on the 50, Thomas Hart Benton on the $100 bill, and Charles Sumner on the $500 bill. Lots of war heroes have been featured on currency, like Winfield Scott Hancock on the $2 bill, Stephen Decatur on the 20, Winfield Scott on the 100, and William Tecumseh Sherman on the 500.
Two of them you'd expect, the other two I've never heard of.
Legendary Supreme Court Justice John Marshall, aka Lil John, was on the $20 and $500 bills. Native Americans have made appearances on currency, probably
very rarely, but still.
The most well-known is the Buffalo nickel, which features a...
Yes, I've seen one of these in real life, and they are actually quite beautiful.
Portrait of a man named Irontail, a member of the Ogallala Lakota Sioux tribe. There was also the Sioux chief Running Antelope, featured on the $5 bill. Sacagawea, who aided the explorers Lewis and Clark when they traveled the continent,
probably her worst mistake ever.
Was on the $1 coin for a few years. Heck, Lewis and Clark were also even both on currency at one point. Other women on currency include Martha Washington on the $1 bill, Susan B. Anthony on the $1 coin, and that's basically it, unfortunately, unless you count Helen Keller on the back of the Alabama quarter, or Pocahontas on the back of the $20 bill with a bunch of other people. Now, while this is all fun and stuff, the vast majority of Americans don't even use cash to make purchases in any...
They just use cards these days.
...week anymore, especially younger Americans. I mean, I rarely carry cash around with me, unless it's photocopied, of course. That might come in handy. And with apps like Venmo and the Cash App...
That's basically the end of the video. He's just lifting up ways that people now use money. So, yeah, I'll see you in the next video, I guess.